Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Pure Energy Connections. Another Thursday night show, and thank you for being here tonight. We are at the People's Patriot Network. I am DJ, your host for today. Pure Energy Connections is where we connect, we share ideas, we heal, we manifest our dreams, all, of course, for better quality life. Now, my passion is preventive health and natural healing, self-healing, delivering awareness of what we can actually improve our quality of life with. So there's a lot of different instruments for that. There's a lot of different things to look at, especially in our environment. Very important. You know, when I walk my little dog, who, by the way, is turning 19 this August, I'm so excited. I actually avoid all the houses that had their lawns sprayed. And I know which ones they are because I watch where the trucks go, right? So, but this night, we are going to speak, every Thursday night, of course, we have the pleasure of having Jim Kurtz with us. He is the executive director, of Organic Earth Tech. And every week, we're going to have the pleasure of having him on our show, as we do tonight, and also replays our Thursdays at 2 p.m. This is Eastern time, folks, and you can always see us at People's Patriot Network. And also Jim is putting them up, the replays. So this is really exciting. Last week we spoke about our plants. We talked about growing vegetables. But this week we want to talk about something a little bit different. Something that a lot of people have, and they just don't think about it as far as growing it, what naturally they can use to grow it. So we're going to go ahead and discuss that tonight, which I think is going to be very, very interesting. But first, I'm going to do the disclosure. Pure Energy Connections hosts guests, visitors, information services, devices, and products shown on this website and in emails, newsletters, radio show are for entertainment and educational purposes only, and most have not been evaluated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and or any other governmental derivatives thereof, known or unknown. These statements, services, products, and devices have not been approved by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease, and are not to serve as medical advice. I do not heal anyone, as the body has its innate abilities to heal if you give it what it needs, such as the balance of energy, organic food, and I am not a physician, dietitian, nutritional expert, nor a scientist, physicist, or a pastry chef. And those seeking treatment for a specific disease, pain, or illness should consult a qualified, competent, integrative physician prior to using our product, services, or information herein. All right, folks, thank you so much, and it's exciting. We're going to have Jim on the call today, and let's just check to see if he's there yet. Jim, are you on the call?
I am here.
Awesome. Thank you for being here for another week with Organic Earth Tech. This is exciting. So let's tell the people the mystery, what we're talking about today, something that almost everybody has, but they just don't really know about what they can do with it, at least not what you have can do with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the mystery of it is we've been focusing on gardening, gardeners, how to get, healthier food to eat, grow your own food, how to have healthier flowers, and really just the gardening aspect of it. But I was really thinking, for every gardener, somebody's growing their own food or, or growing their own flowers and that kind of stuff, or have a lot of plants inside, there's probably 10 people who have a beautiful lawn, that they're very interested in having that beautiful, lush green lawn, and they focus on all that. So my thought processes was, hey, if what good is it if to really focus on having an organic garden or a natural garden where you're growing healthy plants for a garden or, your flower bed, etc., if you're just spraying chemicals all over your lawn just to get your lawn green. So I wanted to kind of just share some tips for how to grow a natural, healthy, organic lawn as well as a garden, because a lot more people probably have lawns that they're interested in taking care of than than they do plants and in a garden. So that's why I wanted to talk about how to keep a healthy lawn.
Well, and Jim and I look at it this way, just as I mentioned earlier, most people with families and grandchildren even, and dogs and other pets are walking on that grass. They're walking barefoot on it. And even though, you maybe didn't spray, but 2 weeks or a month ago, the residue is still on there. And there's really good information on even the dogs, because they walk obviously barefoot and their little paws get on all this residue and is causing a lot of the cancers in dogs, believe it or not. So those people with children that are out there with the hose, hopefully the hose is lead free, and they're playing, in the water and on the grass and rolling in it, and maybe even eating some of the grass, the young children. This is, to me, this is very important, Jim. It really is, especially when it can be lush and beautiful too at the same time, without maybe having to put all those pesticides on your lawns.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I did a little bit of research on this. I personally don't have a lawn. I live in an apartment currently, but I've always liked when I was a kid, rolling around and playing football and rolling around with my dog on the lawn. And I'm sure that my parents used fertilizers and chemicals and stuff like that. But it probably wasn't the best thing. Although the stuff they have now, you know, with the direction that everything else is going, I'm wondering what the potency of the stuff they're using now is versus before. So,
Well, it's turning into a power mix, because even glysophate is not alone as dangerous as it is as when they add in all the other things with it. That makes it really powerful. It makes it very, very dangerous. So, yeah, I've done a lot of research on just the pesticides alone, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But now we have your product, so let's hear what we can do and not have to worry maybe even about the bugs, right?
yeah, I mean, I actually just want to go through a few tips here that you can do or use to get a healthy green lawn without necessarily having to use chemicals. Um, and then obviously my product will fit into that at some point. But the first thing you got to look at is like insects. Like that's the first thing that people have problems with is insects. And with lawns, as opposed to let's say gardens, you still have slugs and snails and that kind of stuff, but you have things like chinch bugs, which are these little critters. It's hard to explain. They're almost like a beetle kind of a thing. You have lawn beetles, and the beetles themselves are not, or even June bugs in the south. And the beetles themselves are not necessarily as bad, but their larvae, the little grubs that they hatch, they actually hatch them in your lawn, and then they burrow down into the what they call the thatch layer, which we'll go into. And then they obviously over the course of I think a year, they grow into adults, and then they obviously lay more eggs. And these little grubs will sit there and feed on the roots of your grass, and they'll make the whole grass, little patches of your grass, turn brown. You have other things, obviously, like ants and those kinds of stuff. And the question is like, well, what do you do about these insects? Whether you're seeing brown spots or whether you're just seeing, you're playing around and you start to get bit. I remember a couple times playing in the grass or even mowing my lawn and just, having um, just all these little bite marks all over my ankles and, because I would mow my lawn in my shorts, all over my legs had all these bite marks where these insects were getting stirred up by the mower, and then they would come and land on my skin and bite me. Um, so insects is one problem that people will run into. And I think the first thing is if you want to do it on a natural way without using a lot of insecticides, yeah, you can use like a soap-based solution, which I think a couple of places recommend. But I always look at it like in the natural chain of things. Like if you have an insect that's eating a grass, the chances are there's another animal that's going to eat those insects. It's just sort of the food chain, right? So higher up on the food chain than the little slugs that are eating the grass, the roots of the grass. You may have moles, for example, which are not good for your lawn, um, which eat the grubs. We also have birds that will eat them. Sometimes larger insects will eat them. And you have stuff like ladybugs and insects that are not really damaging to your lawn, but they'll eat insects that do damage your lawn, that do eat all the leaves or the blades of grass, etc. So when you're looking at pesticides, maybe you want to look at, okay, I have a particular type of insect. So maybe you want to do a little research online, like what bird or what animal eats that insect, and then figure out how you can attract those those predators of these harmful insects. And that's one way you can actually eliminate uh, pests, specific types of pests in your lawn without having to use a bunch of chemicals. So that'd be my first thing is
That's interesting.
find out what eats the bugs that are eating your grass.
That's interesting. Yeah. All around my garden I had at my house before I sold that, I had bushes that actually attract butterflies because I love butterflies. And anytime I walked out there during the day, I had at least two, three, four butterflies flying around. It was beautiful. So I guess we need to find what bushes actually attract the ladybugs, right?
Yeah,
But
and
that's
that's one of the
interesting.
things. Yeah, that's one of the things that actually um, when we were researching my device and how it helps insect resistance, one of the ways that it does that is certain plants will give off certain pheromones that attract insects that are eating the plants themselves. And that's the plant's way of defending itself against the herbivores that are eating the plants, is they say, well,
Right.
hey, I know what eats you, and I'm gonna, I know what smells they like, so they release this chemical. Plants are very fascinating in the way that they can actually change their biology and actually emit certain signals into the air, pheromones or other types of signals that, let's say, birds or other animals are more attuned to than we are. That they come and they start eating the insects. It's pretty interesting.
Well, that is interesting. Wow. Well, good. That's something to keep in mind then. And so, when we're looking at the pests, though, and the food, and when you're looking at the food chain, your device though doesn't really hurt the pest at all. That's the greatest part because I'm all about the bees. You know that. So that's
Yeah.
what's exciting too.
Well, what my device does specifically, and this goes with gardening or lawns equally, is it makes the plant. So I mean, you can look at a lawn as either one giant plant, or you can look at it like a bunch of thousands of individual plants. Either way. But what my device does is when you water the lawn, let's say with my device, it makes it so healthy that the plant's natural defense systems, like I mentioned, kick in. They kick in a lot more. So some types of grass or plants, they may emit signals for birds or other types of animals that will feed on the insects that are going to eat the grass. They'll start emitting those signals because the
Hmm.
grass is healthy, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's more a matter of the grass will develop its own chemical that, let's say, the insects don't like. So the insects go away from your lawn and they go to your neighbor's lawn or somewhere else to get their meal. Um, it's kind of like if you like something really sweet and you have a sweet tooth, and then I give you something that changes that sweetness of whatever food you like into something sour or bitter, you're not going to eat that food anymore. You're going to eat something else.
Hmm.
And it's the same with insects. So that's what plants actually do when they're healthy. They have their mechanisms by which they change the way, either they change the flavor or they change sometimes they'll add a chemical that's hard for the insects to digest, and so they either kill them off or again force the insects somewhere else. But when you make the plants just healthy, it's not like you're really killing the insects or destroying the insects. It's just you're making the plants so healthy. You're giving them a fighting chance against the insects that are killing them.
Exactly, exactly. And I know that because I've been using your product for a while now, and I have more bees than ever. Of course, they love my Thai basil. As soon as they start flowering, they are all over it. So yeah, it's just a healthier plant. Exactly, just like we've talked about before. When a human and a man or woman actually has a really good immune system, high alkaline, and healthy, they're going to be the ones at a picnic that never get bit by mosquitoes. you know
Yeah.
and while the other ones are getting eaten alive, a couple other people is like, well, why are they going to them? And it was always a mystery to me when I was younger, so now we know.
Yeah, and I found that I don't know if there's a scientific basis to this, but I found that people with lighter skin, the whiter your skin or the more milky, I guess, your skin is, it seems like the more you get attacked by mosquitoes. But I
Yeah.
have no scientific basis for that. That's just what I've seen.
And that's, yeah, I've noticed that too. I have a lot of Italian friends, beautiful olive skin, and you're right. Yeah, I noticed they rarely get bit by mosquitoes, so I didn't even realize that. Interesting.
Yeah. So there are the kinds of pests that you can get rid of in your lawn. Like if you have a lot of snails and slugs and stuff, or even beetles, anything that really crawls, like the larger insects, then diatomaceous earth works really well. And the only downside about diatomaceous earth is you have once it gets wet, it tends to be less effective. But if you sprinkle it around the perimeter of your lawn, and you don't get that part of your lawn wet, then typically what happens is the insects crawl over it, and it's ground up shells of these types of crustaceans. So it forms a powder, but when they crawl over it, the insects usually breathe on the bottom of their abdomen. That's where their uh, intake of air comes from. So they breathe it in, and it's almost like you're breathing in glass, you know. So it actually kills them very quickly. And in
Yeah.
other types of mollusks or beetles and stuff, they either die or they learn to avoid going over those lines. So if you have a nice perimeter around your lawn of diatomaceous earth or traps in some cases, then that will keep them outside of your lawn. It doesn't really do anything once they're inside your lawn, but it will keep them from coming in from out other places.
That's very good. Yeah, and I did forget about diatomaceous earth. I actually use the food grade myself, but at least it's more natural. It's a more natural thing to use, in outside. So that's great. Yeah, it has little tiny fibers in it, and so yeah, when the bugs ingest it, it destroys their gut. I believe is what I heard.
Yeah. I've heard it's their lungs, their air intake, but it could be their digestive system. I'm not sure which, but in
Oh,
either case, it kills them pretty quickly. And
mm-hmm.
it's not the most pleasant thing to think about, maybe, but hey, I don't have a lot of loss feelings of loss for most insects that are doing me and my family harm or killing my plants. So
Right. Exactly. But yeah, diatomaceous earth is really good. Good. Well, good. That's good information, Jim. I like that. Thank you.
yeah, and the other thing, I guess the next thing is a lot of insects, especially larvae. If you have a lot of grubs, and the way you can tell this is if you have a brown patch of grass, and you try to pull it up, or you just pull on it, if it comes loose very easily, what you'll see is you'll typically see these little white larvae or these white little grubs. They're like little worms. If you see a lot of those in this, if you have a black patch or a lot of black patches in your, or not black, but brown patches in your lawn, and you pull it up and you see a lot of these little white grubs, those are these beetles that what they're doing is they're actually eating the roots of your grass. That's what turns them brown and kills the grass. If you have that problem, then one of the things you can do is actually remove they call it the thatch layer. Um, when you look at a cross section of grass, what you'll see is you'll have soil on the bottom, and then you'll have a layer of thatch, which looks like a bird's nest almost. It's kind of a brown layer of kind of this, um, almost a straw-like material. And then you'll have the root system, and then you'll have, which is typically brown or white in the bottom of the grass, and you have the blades of grass on top. Well, if that thatch layer, if that layer of thatch is more than about an inch or inch and a half thick, then what happens is it becomes detrimental to your lawn, and it's bad for your lawn for two reasons. One, those little grubs get in that thatch, and that's where they live, and they love that aspect. It keeps them warm and away from predators and everything else, so it becomes like a huge nesting ground for those little insect larvae. And two, if it's too thick, your soil can't get aeration. Your soil does need some aeration from the air to get nitrogen, other things that it needs. It also breaks up the soil so that um, you know nutrients can get in and out. As part of the whole cycle of photosynthesis. If that thatch layer is too thick, then what happens is it compacts the soil, and the soil starts to die because it doesn't get all the nutrients, or the grass dies because it doesn't get all the nutrients it needs from the soil, because the soil is not interacting with the air the way it's supposed to. So if you have a lot of thatch, And the easiest way to tell is by taking your finger or a little hole and uh, taking a little plug out and then just seeing how thick that layer of thatch is. If it's more than an inch or inch and a half, you may want to consider dethatching your lawn, which your local landscaper can definitely help you with. And there's some articles, which I think one of them I'll send to DJ for so you guys can read up on it and educate yourself on how you would remove that thatch layer if you find that your thatch layer is too thick on your lawn.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can put that link on Pure Energy Connections. Wonderful. That is good news. Yeah, I've seen those little white worms before, and I wasn't sure those are the ones eating the roots. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean there's other ones too, but those are the worst ones because what they do is they eat up the root structure of your lawn as they're trying to grow. And without roots, without a good root structure, your lawn, like any other plant's going to die, and you'll see those patches of brown where you'll get those infestations. And they're hard to get rid of, but the one thing you can do on a natural basis would be um, again, either removing the thatch if you find the thatch layer is too thick, or as I mentioned earlier, um, find out like what birds eat grubs and that kind of stuff, and like install a bird bath or try and invite some birds and stuff that would eat those types of grubs. Um, that becomes again part of the food chain. So you're not having to spray chemicals on it. You're letting the birds do the work for you to get rid of the insects that are killing your lawn.
Very good. Yeah, and we see a lot of lawns with little bird baths on them, and obviously that's working very well. Well, good, good, very interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing, I guess, which kind of goes into the thatch layer, the other tip I would have would be aeration. You should aerate your soil. Most professionals that I've read recommend once a year to maybe once every 2 years aerating your soil. And all that is there's two ways to aerate. The better way is a plug method where it takes little plugs of grass and dirt out. Usually about the size of a wine cork. Take a little plug of dirt out, and you'll see all these little plugs that are missing. And what that does is it allows a gap where air can directly interact with the soil. And as the air interacts with the soil, the various microbes and things in the soil will take that nitrogen and some of the stuff in the air and be able to convert it into a form of nitrogen that the plants can use, because nitrogen is one of the main components that a plant needs as far as nutrients from the soil. So aerating it allows the soil to breathe and interact with. It also breaks up the soil so that it's not a hard packed clay. And it will give it the ability to breathe and interact with and get the nutrients in that the grass needs.
That's interesting. At my house, I had a beautiful lawn. I had a big corner lot with a horseshoe driveway, and I had a lot of grass. And I had my lawn company came by and noticed that my dirt. I don't know if it was the dirt or the root system was getting really thick. When you walked on my grass, it was like walking on air. It was so thick. And they came by with a machine that they said did something very similar to what you were saying. It was an actual machine they pulled and did all throughout my lawn, and they said it irrigated it, and it really helped it too.
Yeah, and that's what they usually use, is a little machine that if you want to get the plug style air, you can actually buy these like special shoes that they look like really thick golf shoes. They have about an inch to 2 inch long spikes, and then you just walk on your lawn with it, and it puts little spike holes in your lawn, and those holes do the same thing. It aerates your soil.
Oh,
Um, from what I've been reading, it's not as effective as if you have the little machines that pull the whole plug out, because what happens with lawn is when you're playing on it or when you're walking on it or when you have if you run any kind of cars or anything, the soil underneath the lawn gets compacted. It gets like it's almost like you're taking a trash compactor and compacting the soil. And when you compact the soil, air can't get into the soil. Other nutrients can't get into the soil. Certain types of let's say earthworms, which may be good for the soil, have a harder time getting through, and it really just makes it much more difficult for the plant to get the nutrients that it needs through the root system. So by
okay.
aerating it, you're pulling little pieces of the soil out every now and then,
Mm-hmm.
and you're allowing the air to interact directly with the soil. It'll dry it out. So if you have a root rot issue, if you've overwatered it or have too much rain, it'll allow the soil to kind of stay moist but dry out too, so it's not rotting the roots out. A lot of benefits to aeration. Now, there's really two different kinds of times of year when you should aerate. If you have a warm weather grass, like if your grass really grows in the summertime really well, like Bahia, Bermuda, St. Augustine, or buffalo grass, all of those types of things, you want to actually aerate in the springtime, like right before the summer. And the reason for that is you want to get when you aerate the soil, it actually harms the grass a little bit, and you want to, but the grass will grow back. It needs to be when you aerate, it needs to have time to recover. So if you have a warm weather grass, like I just mentioned, you aerate in the fall when it's about ready to go dormant, then the grass won't have time to grow and fill in those gaps, and it can actually harm the grass. So if you don't know what kind of grass you have, you want to talk to a local nursery or landscaper and ask them. They'll probably be able to tell you too when the best time to aerate is or whether you need it. And then the cooler seasons, you want to aerate in the fall, like around September, like Kentucky bluegrass, creeping bentgrass, fescue, ryegrass. Those are all cool weather that grow more in the fall, and you want to, or in the winter months. So you want to aerate the soil right at the end of summer for those types of grass. But aerating really has a lot of positive benefits that will definitely help your grass stay healthy, and it won't run into situations where it lacks nutrients or it lacks the ability to to continue to grow.
Okay, good. Very interesting.
And it
Those.
reduces the thatch layer too. So the thatch layer grows because of a usually dry condition, and the aeration actually helps with moisture and reduces the issue with those larvae that I mentioned before, and the thatch layer too. So it has those benefits as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, all the years I had a nice lawn, I never knew this. One very good information.
Yeah, and the idea is, I think most people, they hire a True Green or some kind of chemical company to go in, and what they do is they spray lawn seed, and some of the seeds have pesticide built into it, like the BT bacterial toxin, which ironically enough is approved for organic, lawn maintenance, because BT is a little bit of a separate issue with it's a GMO type of a solution, but it's a little bit of a separate issue from pesticides like glyphosate and others that they use in conjunction with the two. But um, so they usually they'll call it feed and seed. So they put lawn seed on. They'll put some kind of chemical like a nitrogen fertilizer on it to help the grass grow. And sometimes they will mix pesticide chemicals in as well, all in one shot. So they spray your whole lawn, and you wind up getting all of this in your lawn all in one package. And if you're going to use a lawn service like that, I would definitely recommend finding out what's in their spray, what they're using, including what pesticides, what kinds of seeds they're using, what kinds of fertilizer they're using, and just really educate yourself on what they're doing, because they could be using a lot of chemicals and stuff that are really not that good for you. Um, so as opposed to just if you just had lawn seed, for example, and you just use that once a year.
Mm-hmm. Good. Very good. Yeah, I didn't realize BT was a GMO. I didn't know that.
I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. I'm not necessarily an expert, but I know as far as the corn crops, what the GMO guys are using is they call it BT corn, and it's a bacteria what that they use. The BT is actually a bacterium, and what they do is they splice it into the genetic code of corn seeds. Now, as far as the lawn is concerned, I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm not sure if they're using just BT as a standalone item, like a bacterium by itself, or if they're using seeds that have that bacterium inserted into it, which would be a GMO product. But that's something you'd have to research on your own. I don't have that data to hand.
Okay, good. Well, good information. Yeah, it's always good to plant some seeds in our mind to, to go out and do a little research. And we got the internet. We've got the all the information there just to research it, and that's great.
Yeah, the bottom line I think overall is just educate yourself. Don't spend all of your time thinking, "Oh, I've got this organic garden and isn't it great?" And then you're just allowing True Chem or something to come in and I don't know, I don't want to pick on any company, but some chemical company that just sprays a ton of chemicals all over your lawn, which is just as bad and maybe even worse for you than having um or a pesticides in your garden, because your kids and your pets, they roll around in it, they play on it, you walk on it sometimes barefoot, and you'll absorb, if there's toxins in there, you'll absorb those toxins for sure.
Yeah, well, there's in herbology, when I was studying it, there was an old saying that all you have to do is take off your shoes and socks, stand on an onion, a fresh cut onion, and see how long it takes until you actually taste the onion in your mouth.
Hmm,
Yeah, try it.
that's interesting.
It's amazing. Yeah. So when people say, "Ah, my foot's calloused and there's no way, it's going to cause that much trouble or whatever," or even on the dog's paws, when they're walking on it. But yeah, people don't realize those things.
Well, and the reverse is true too. Like I've seen a lot of detoxes where um they take Epsom salt or some other kind of thing,
Yep.
and it's a water bath, and you just stick your feet in there. You don't do It's actually a type of detox where you just stick your feet in there. And I've done it once where I put my feet in there. I put this powder or whatever it is in the water, and then just a bucket of water. I stuck my feet in there, and after about 15 minutes of keeping my feet in this water, the water starts to turn brown. And my feet weren't that dirty. I mean, it wasn't like I was walking around on asphalt. They were just regular, my regular feet, but all the toxins and stuff were just bleeding out of my feet, coming out through my feet. I was like, wow, it was pretty amazing.
Well, I actually I have a commercial foot bath and I use salts in it, and it's amazing what you were talking about when what it's drawing out of the body. And yeah, the water gets really murky and then it turns really brown and yucky, and then you actually get foamy. It gets like foamy on top. So yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, people just don't realize, I mean, I love to walk barefoot because I like earthing and I like being, getting energized from the earth and being away from the rubber shoes that actually stop that from happening. And, you just don't know what you're walking on, though. You got to be so careful these days. Even the beach, we're right here at the beach. I love to walk on the beach, but the problem is again, you've got all these bacterias and toxins and things that you're picking up right through your feet. So you do have to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, I used to like to go on what I like to stick my feet right where the surface coming up and just washing over my feet. And I found that the salt water and everything just tends to definitely grounds me a bit.
Well, it does, and salt does. That's why I'm big on an Epsom salt bath, or else I'll use Himalayan salts, which I have that also. I think those are some of the best baths in the world. And it's so good for you because most people are magnesium deficient anyway. So when you lay in one of those baths, I mean, it's relaxing, it's good for the muscles, it's even good for the gut. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Magnesium is one of those things that everybody drinks milk, but they don't realize that you need a lot of magnesium. Otherwise, all the calcium that you're getting from the milk is not gonna, your body's not gonna absorb it. If you don't have about half as much magnesium as calcium, it'll
Exact.
just leach right back out of your body again.
Exactly. Yeah, you do have to have very good balance of different minerals in the body, including copper. Copper they're finding to be very, very important for a lot of different things. But again, it's got to be balanced with potassium, and then you got all the other ones. But yeah, it's amazing how the body is put together. It really is. And the entire universe actually.
Yeah. And that's really all I have for the organic lawn maintenance. I would say, if you're going to use a professional landscaper, that's just really find out from them: are they natural? Are they green? What kinds of stuff they use? Because even if they say they're organic or they're natural, they may be there's certain things like I've found that are approved for organic lawn maintenance or plant health that are not necessarily still not the best thing probably for you, or maybe not for the long-term health of your plants. So consult your professionals, obviously, and then just do your homework a little bit, because you don't want to ignore that big piece of green that circles your house, especially the ones that your kids play on and pets and everything else. Um, our device really will make your plants and your lawn healthy because it's giving them the exact signals that they need to improve photosynthesis. When a plant has an enhanced photosynthesis, that means it has more of the sugars and the materials it needs to grow, and so it grows healthy, it grows strong, it grows green. It resists insects and disease and other conditions that are not good for a lawn. And at the end of the day, you'll have a nice healthy lawn, and all you've really done is watered your plants. You're not putting any chemicals, anything on it. You're just using a frequency-based signaling system that makes the plant's photosynthesis just really, really improve. And it will work on your lawn just as much as any other plant, because lawns, grass uses photosynthesis too.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting because even when you get organic fertilizers, organic this, organic that, you're still not 100% natural. But when we're looking at just a sound wave, a frequency, you can't get any more natural than that. Right, Jim? I mean, I just feel so comfortable using this technology opposed to all those other organic or so-called natural products out there. I just don't never felt comfortable with them. So yours is phenomenal, and also I wanted to touch too on the using natural companies out there that do natural pest control. Natural has been a very very bad marketing word because people think it is natural. Anybody can use natural. Nothing's really tested on natural. You have to really do one. You have to do organic. And even organic again, there's termite companies actually using orange peel instead of the highly toxic tenting, and they'll use orange peel like up in the attics and the walls and so forth. So
Citrus oil, yeah.
or citrus oil, yeah. So but if you do a Google search in your area, there are a lot. There more and more today. Now there are a lot more alternatives out there from the chemicals and the natural companies. There's a lot of organic out there. You have to look for them, but they're out there now, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, 15 minutes of research, when you're looking at stuff like this, when you really want to start taking responsibility for your health, and responsibility for, your family's health, and that's the biggest thing, because I think we all fall into it where we just get into our daily routine, and our lives get busy, and we don't spend that 10, 15 minutes it might take, to really say, okay, what kind of food am I putting in my body and my family's body? What kind of what am I putting on my plants? What am I putting on my lawn? And if you just take a little bit of time, it doesn't take a long time. Thank God for the internet. That's the benefit of the internet, is there's a lot of information right at your fingertips. I had to go to the library and look at microfiche and all that stuff, and there's those machines where you have to scroll through these articles and stuff, and now you just type a few words in Google and you have information. So with that knowledge and information comes a little bit of responsibility of, hey, there's a lot of companies out there that's saying, hey, this is totally okay. It's okay to spray chemicals. It's not going to kill you, and it doesn't kill you right away. But those toxins and those things build up over time. And 5 years later, 10 years later, if you've got some disease, if you've got, an autoimmune disease, or if your kids have autism, or if you've got something else going on, you may even have a mental disorder that's happening, and you're not really sure where all this is coming from. Well, the chances are a lot of the contributing factors of a lot of this stuff is either toxins in your body, or chemicals, or bad food, or whatever, and it's not something that shows up immediately after you're exposed to it. It's like it's over time, you just continually exposed to these things, and they do have a negative effect over time on your body.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I work with a lot of friends and family and acquaintances here on that, and it's the environment, not just the food in your refrigerator and your cabinets and the stuff you put on your skin and your shampoos, and it's the environment. Just like I study a lot with electromagnetic frequencies, and also you got to look outside and going right out, like you said, to our lawns, our plants. And you know me, I'm all about preventive health, but it doesn't stop with non-GMO. It doesn't stop with just pesticides. I step outside the box and look at the whole picture because it's everything. If you look at our liver actually produces 1 ounce of alcohol a day. And that 1 ounce of alcohol is to help cleanse the liver. And what it's doing is filtering everything through the body. That liver in some people is black. and they've shown that it's black. And once that turns black, and it's not just from alcohol, people drinking a lot of alcohol, it's from the entire environment that we're living in, breathing in, the water we're drinking, everything.
Well,
So that,
the liver's the filter for the blood. The liver and the spleen both basically work together to A, help in digestion, and B, of certain things, certain fats, I believe, and then B, just to filter the blood. So when you expose yourself into a lot of toxins over time, yeah, that it's will put a lot of stress on the liver. And even medications will do that too. You'll see a lot of people with who
definitely.
especially older people who have a lot of medications like blood pressure and other stuff that they take. If you're taking a lot of different medications, that stresses the liver because the liver is trying to take that back out of your body because it doesn't says, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to be here. So let me just it puts strain on the liver to filter that stuff out. And then you're wind up taking medications for your liver. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Well, it's all about homeostasis. We want the body to be completely balanced in every way. You got something incredible because we need food. We need, and a lot of people, 80, 90% of America has lawns. And to keep our lawns healthier, safer to play on, to walk on is so important. So you're picking up a big part of the spectrum of our surroundings that is really helping us, including our food.
yeah, and who doesn't want a nice, beautiful lawn that they don't have to do that much to? They just water the lawn and everything goes well. You know, that's the best part about it. It's so simple. It's like I don't have to go through a lot of instructions. I don't have to, it's just no. You put it on your sprinkler system or you put it on your hose and you water your lawn and water your lawn. It's that simple.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I actually move the device from inside the house because sometimes I'll water some things inside, such as sprouting, and then within 2 seconds I have it outside, for my hose and what I'm doing out there. And also, let's let everybody know too. People that are new to the show today and haven't heard you in the past, they need to know where they can go and just take a peek at it. Just go to farmerliaison.com. I also have that link over at pureenergyconnections.com that you can link over to it. But and I'm going to start adding, Jim, a lot more of your links and information that you give on the shows. Anything that you have, send to me, and I will put that on Pure Energy Connections. And also, I have another website I'll be putting it up on, including replays of this show. So one thing people are probably wondering is, what does the device look like? Why is it so simple just to attach it to the, where you're watering your plants? Maybe touch on that real quick.
Well, yeah, the device itself is about the size of a nickel. It's a small metal device. It's programmed with about 2,200 frequencies or very specific signals that we've discovered over the past, or I shouldn't say we, I haven't discovered it. The inventor of the technology discovered. Um, he spent about he spent 15 years on plant research, and he spent about 30 years overall on human beings and plants and various things. And he discovered that there's very specific frequencies that there's only a small number of things that can go wrong with a plant. Their physiology is relatively simple, and you look at the external factors like light, water, insects, those types of things. But internally in the plant, there's not that much that can really go wrong with it. So these signals are programmed with like if let's say signal one comes through, it's almost like asking a plant a question. Hey, what's going on with you? Is it this problem? And the plant would say no. Is it this problem? No. Is it this problem? No. Well, what happens though is these signals, when they reach the plant, are essentially doing that. It's almost like if the signal matches what's wrong with the plant, the signal will cause the plant to revert and get healthy again. If the signal doesn't match what's wrong with the plant, nothing will happen. And it's the technology behind what my device does is complicated. Just like if you picked up your cell phone and try and thought about it and thought, what is all the technology that's required to allow me to pick up this device and go on Google and do a search on Google or hit a website on Google? Or what is all the technology in my phone that allows me to hit a couple of buttons in certain places and make a phone call and talk to somebody halfway across the country? If you look at the technology of a cell phone, it's incredibly complicated and nobody understands how all that stuff works. But for the user, it's simple. And that's what really good technology should do in any type of field. A really advanced, really good technology should just make it so simple that the user doesn't have to know what all went into it and how it all works. They just use it, and the use of it should be simple. And that's what we've tried to do with this device. We've tried to take out all the guesswork and all um, the thing, the difficulty with it to try and figure out how to do it. We've put all of that guesswork and all that know-how into the program, into the signaling program that we use. And for the end user, it's simple. You just attach it to a hose nozzle or a faucet, and you water your plants. And our device does all the rest. So
Yeah, and I think you said what, 2200 frequencies?
yeah,
And that and yeah, what people don't realize too, that didn't happen overnight. This guy studied in Italy, what was it, 27 years of research to put all that together. This isn't simple stuff. I mean, this took a long time to create and test and find every frequency that these plants need to be healthy, work in photosynthesis, like you said. And I love it because you attach this little quarter size piece of metal, you attached it to a little bit of Velcro. And I walk outside and I Velcro it around, right around where the spigot comes out of my house. And it takes 1 second to put it on and 1 second to take it off. And it's incredible. And I use it in the house, of course, too, for when I fill up buckets and or using it with my sprouting. So it's so simple to use. It's just amazing. And like you said, we don't need to know how it works. It just works. And that's the best part.
yeah. I mean, and the Velcro is not part of the technology per se. We just added it because we wanted to make it so simple that like literally it's just okay. Can you Velcro your shoes on in the morning if you have Velcro shoes? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, good. Then you can use this device. It's like we felt like okay, the simpler and the easier that we make it, the better the chance are that the person will use it. And what only by using it do you really see what it can really do for your plants. You can read all the testimonials and read all the scientific research and all that stuff, but the way you really determine if it works is you say, okay, let me get this thing, let me use it, and let me see. And once you see, then you say, oh wow, I can't believe it. Whether it's your lawn or a garden or indoor plants or whatever. It's very simple to use.
Well, I don't have much lawn here, but since we spoke last and you mentioned about using it on the lawn, and of course sending all the pest over to my neighbors, I just love that. So I started watering the lawn, and I'm actually noticing the lawn looking a little bit greener. And I just started this. I mean, it's only been what, about a week.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I see things changing so quickly, just like with my own plants. My green peppers, for instance, are getting really large. My tomato plant is phenomenal. I've never seen such a healthy tomato plant in my life, ever.
Yeah, we've got one. I went to my garden yesterday, and I actually have a problem. The problem that I have was it's grown so big that I have a little cage. I have about a 3 foot cage around it, or I had one when the plant itself was only about a foot. And this is about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, that was about a foot and a half tall. So I put about a 3 foot cage on it, thinking, okay, good, this will be fine. Well, now I went back to it yesterday, and the problem it's having is now the thing's grown so big. It's about 4.5 feet tall, and then it's also about 5 feet out because the branches, with this cage, the branches kind of came up and then went sideways, and now the branches are about 5 feet long on this tomato plant. And I'm like, was trying to figure out how do I get this 3 foot cage off and put a 5 foot tall cage on so the plant would continue to grow. And I'm like, I can't figure out how to do it because it's literally grown and intricated itself so much in this 3 foot cage that I can't get the cage out of it now. So it's
That's
grown so big and so much. I'm like, oh my God. I guess I should have planned better, but
this,
I'm like, wow.
Jim. This is a tomato plant. Wow. And well, you got a head start. I got a little late start. This one came from a compost, but I think the next thing we need to work on is ask our developer to develop something also that can put a perimeter around our vegetables. And because I'm starting to find that I think it's either rabbits. We have a lot of rabbits around here, and I've got them raised up. But I think it's squirrels now. I think I got a squirrel that's getting into some of my food.
Squirrels were what I do with squirrels, because that is a problem. Squirrels seem to be the bigger one, and then to a lesser degree, snails. Um, with snails, what I do is I just have coffee grounds around the perimeter of my garden, and the coffee grounds. Um, and I go to Starbucks and I say, "Can you give me some grounds for your garden?" Is what they call it, and it's just they used espresso grounds, and then all you do is you sprinkle a little layer of it around the outside of your garden, and then the snails and the slugs don't go into your garden. For the squirrels, what I did is I kind of did the diversionary technique. We've got a hibiscus plant in the back of our office here, and it's just loaded with all these seeds now. So what I did is I took all these seeds and off this hibiscus plant, and then I stripped them off all the seeds, and then I put them about 3 or 4 feet away from my garden. I just put a little pile of them, and what happens is the squirrels go to the seeds, and now they're eating the seeds. They're not eating my plants or my tomatoes. So
Oh, what a
it
good,
works pretty well.
yeah, what a good idea. Well, we have this what do you call it, like a clear thread that they use here in Florida to keep the seagulls, away from public areas. I was thinking of even using that, but that's a good idea. I never thought about that. Give them something to eat so they stay away from our food. What
And
a
then same thing. Yeah, same thing with birds. As we were getting birds that were landing on the plants, but they were trying to kill the insects, not the plants, but just the fact of them, the weight of them landing on the branches were breaking some of the branches off. So
Mhm.
again, I just took for some reason when I have a little area in my garden where I compost. Just it's like in the corner of my garden, so I put like old banana peels and just old food and stuff, or sometimes if it looks like some of the plants that don't thrive as well. Um, I'll put little compost there, and then I take the worms and I put them somewhere else, and then the birds come and eat the worms or the caterpillars. So
Great. What a great idea. Well, the music's playing. Jim, it was another great show, great week with you. I look forward to talking with you next Thursday.
yeah, real quick, just to let everybody know, I have a discount, $10 off of one of our devices. If you just put PEC10, you'll get that discount.
PEC10, just like Pure Energy Connections, abbreviated. Wonderful. That is great. Wonderful talking with you. God bless and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Sounds good.
Thank you, hon.